Hey guys, before we get started with the badass episode I know my parents would be proud of, probably not, I want to give a shout out to our friends over at the Fillmore Denver and Live Nation Colorado. Be sure you guys are following them not only on Instagram and Facebook at Live Nation CO at Fillmore Den, because they have a huge lineup for September. We got Incubus, we got Banks, we got Angels and Airwaves, and then that's just to start off for the Fillmore. Live Nation also has events like this weekend. We have the block party down at Mile High Spirits. They have events going on at Pepsi Center. They have events like Live Nation sponsoring STS9 at Red Rocks. Shows galore, ticket giveaways galore. These are things that you want to be a part of. So make sure you're following along on social media at Fillmore Den, at Live Nation CO. And then for all your ticket needs, go over to www.livenation.com and they'll get you taken care of. Without further ado, let's hear that badass new intro music, Zane.
The suppression of the use of marijuana and of the forces lurking behind it are the most important jobs this department is now engaged in. In 1930, the records on marijuana in the Washington office of the Narcotics Division scarcely filled a small folder like this. Today, they fill cabinets.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, Coloradians and everyone that's smart enough to listen from the outside.
It's one of the most amazing plants we've ever discovered.
The pot party, the trippers, the grasshoppers, the hip ones, all gathered in secrecy and flying high as a kite.
Wheaties! I got weenie pots!
3, 2, 1. Edit right here, Kip. Welcome back, ladies and... I've been recording for like 9 minutes. Y'all just didn't know. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to another week of No Vacancy Colorado with your host, as always, Kip Wilson. And then my co-host to my left, this... Bama, how are you today, Chris?
Dude, doing great. We had an awesome weekend. Went out to Acreage and hung out there, and I guess that was a few weeks ago.
There you go. You're starting
getting
to
better
figure
at
it out.
that.
Yeah. So
but yeah,
this episode we're recording from Broadway Marketplace at 950 Broadway Street. For those that are maybe confused because Uber can throw a loop, it is not South Broadway. It's 950, just normal Broadway. And I'm trying to contain my excitement. I got a big shit-eating grin. But our guest this afternoon is a woman that I've watched on TV for many years. Get your minds out of the gutter. I have Miss Corinne Kaplan, former Survivor and Amazing Race player, so reality television star.
Yeah.
Denver resident joining us this afternoon. Thank you so much, Corinne, for joining us.
It's my pleasure. I'm happy to be here. You guys have a really fun setup, and you guys are both staring at me so excited that I could not feel more welcome. So thank you for having me.
Well, it's the red wine. So
yeah.
Let's start with that, and the fact that we usually do a heavy amount of indica before we get in here, so I'm just glad to see that we have some eye contact going.
Well, I'm just glad you guys didn't ask me to. I'm terrible on weed. I would be a very bad podcast guest.
Made you get high
I was
before.
worried. I was like, I wonder if I have to do the marijuana before the show.
It's probably best that you don't. We take care of that for everybody.
Yeah.
So I'm glad you guys did enough for all three of us.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So, but we are excited to have you join us. For those listening at home, Corinn was on 2 seasons of Survivor, which is one of, I guess, the longest running reality television show. Suck It, Real World, and Road Rules. And it's one that captivated the country. It captivated Kip, and then I actually ran into Corinn at a party last night.
So funny enough, I don't get recognized that often, especially not if I have like my hair and my makeup done. Like if I were to be in a ponytail at the gym, that's like a more
Survivor-ish.
Yeah, like people are used to seeing me like look shitty, and so when I'm dressed up, normally that's not like the prime, recognition. But usually so I was on a first date with a guy that I didn't know, who didn't know I had done TV, right? So I was about 30 minutes into the date, and he was very lovely.
Oh, shit.
But
Did he close?
I didn't.
We can just go ahead and get through that.
Did he close?
Yeah.
What do you mean, for a second date?
You said it was a first, so now
It
we're
was-
getting a little leeway on the second.
It was,
date.
yes. He'll get a second date, yes.
Oh, yeah,
but
okay, there you go.
when we were on the date, he had told me a bunch about himself, and like he's a musician, and I at no point mentioned anything about having been on TV or anything like that. And then he just pops up and is like, I'm such a fan. I just wanted to let you know. And I absolutely love being recognized. Look, any D-level, like, bullshit reality celebrity, if you will, likes being recognized because it's not that often and it's, you know, it's fun. It was just an odd circumstance. So he's like, what the fuck? And
so
I'm like, oh.
He's there in that situation. He being what the fuck is the guy that is freaked out. That was date one.
No, he was like.
And I was all the guy that was.
You're the guy who dropped the truth bomb.
I was super excited and dropped the bomb that you had been on television. So just to clear the air.
Yes. But it was perfectly awesome. I thought it was really funny. Yeah. I wish I could hire you to show up on all of my first dates and be like,
Did he get a little nervous after that?
No, he was just like, oh. Like, I think he felt like, it's weird that you didn't mention that.
So he's not a Survivor fan then, obviously.
No.
So then he's not that cool.
Right.
We can go ahead and cross that. But I guess it could be a lot better than being recognized for some other websites that are TV shows or videos that I watch. I mean, I'd much rather be on Survivor than 90% of the other things that I watch off my computer. So it is a lot. We're going to dive deep into, I want to know secrets. I know I have friends that saw that picture that we posted on the internet that were fired up not only to see me dressed up properly with a collared shirt on, but they have a lot of questions as well.
Okay.
So we asked our listeners for some Survivor-based questions.
Well, I want to just like point out that Survivor, my first season was in 2008. My second was in 2013, and then I did Amazing Race this year. But they were quite a few years ago. So some of the questions you're going to ask, I'm not going to remember the answers to.
No.
Like if you have questions about strategy or what I was thinking at a certain given point in time, I definitely won't remember.
We're not that big of nerds. It's more of like, were y'all giving snacks like Bear Grylls cheating? Like, were people? It felt like the seasons early on with your Colbys and your F&Fs, you know, Richard and those guys, there was actual lack of like rice and like, you know, actual dietary issues. Towards the later seasons, it seemed like, oh, it's fried chicken Thursdays.
Yeah,
we're gonna dive
strange.
into that kind of shit.
Yeah, we can.
Okay, awesome. And then, we start every episode with the same question. So we're going to get to know a little bit of your background, your pre-Survivor days. And then we want to give a shout out to our friends over at Live Nation. Without them, none of this would be possible. Hell, nothing would be possible without Live Nation. So we're stoked to have them. And so we'll have them for another round of rapid fire. And then we'll end with some of your favorite Denver questions and some stoned Appetit weed questions.
Okay, let's do it.
Yeah, you're fucked. All right. Chris leads off every episode with the same question. So, Chris, lead the way, sir.
Are you a transplant or a native?
I am a transplant, so I'm like the what's wrong with Denver, right? Like all of us moving here from other areas. Are you two both transplants?
Yeah.
Yes.
And
we enhance Denver. So.
Transplants unite.
Yeah, that's why it's kind of like a sardonic podcast of No Vacancy, is because we're highlighting how great it is.
Yes.
And the fact that we also flocked here.
And we would also like people to stop flocking here, right? Now that we got in.
Yeah. Close the fucking gate behind us.
100%.
It's very much like Jurassic Park.
Yeah, so.
Where are you from?
I originally was born and raised in Florida. I went to University of Florida for college. I graduated and moved to New York City. I lived in New York City for 8 years, right in downtown Manhattan.
Doing what?
Well.
Just partying?
It was a lot of partying. I got very lucky, yeah. There was a lot of partying. I was doing pharmaceutical sales. When I first moved there, I did stand-up, believe it or not.
Were you good at it?
I was okay. I wasn't.
Tell a racy joke that was allowed then, but's not allowed now.
You still have to have one from like your main sheet.
Yeah, there's probably quite a few.
What was your go-to that would make like some people cringe?
What
would George Carlin
The audience
smile?
is dead.
Nah, we won't throw you on the spot.
No, but like I had this like kind of wholesome look, but I had a very vulgar set. So what I really wanted to do was I wanted to be the girl version of Howard Stern, like since I was in high school. And so when I moved out there, my goal was to sort of build. I wasn't doing stand-up because I wanted to do stand-up. I was doing it to work on my timing, and then ultimately I wanted to, this is before Sirius or podcasting or anything. I thought it was unfair that like there was no one comparing dicks and Howard Stern was comparing breasts. You know, like I thought there could be a female version of what he was doing. So that's what I was trying to do. And it was not as easygoing as I wanted it to be.
I went to college trying to do like Sports Center for Stern, which now Barstool has made $1 billion off of being like the rude, crude, sarcastic version of sports broadcasting.
Yes.
So great minds think alike in that concept of trying to be the Stern of something that wasn't Stern friendly. So now we're trying to be the Bourdain without Bourdain.
Without the boring?
Stone food. Yeah, we're going to try to do stone food. So we get it completely.
Yeah, and if I had like $1 for every time someone's like, oh my God, you're like Chelsea Handler. I'm like, no, that bitch is like me. Like I did ayahuasca before she did. Like everything. I feel like she's so famous for being like that type of personality, and that's 100% what I was trying to do. But I just, I wasn't banging the top head honcho.
Okay. So we got a little Scott. Time out. I thought you were going to say that it was her like skiing topless down the mountain, and that could have also helped the publicity. And then her outlandish like Twitterverse is nice as well. So she has. Yeah,
but originally she was with. They call him the.
I didn't know that she
Silver
sucked
Fox
her pole to the top. That's
nice. She did. I mean, kudos.
So, whatever gets you there. I mean, that's why we have Chris on the podcast. He's going to suck someone's pole to get us all the way to the top.
Yeah.
So thank you. We appreciate that.
Yeah, I appreciate that too.
Thank you in advance.
Hold on, though. Where in Florida are you from, though, originally?
The part of Florida where we make a lot of meth. There's a lot of people like having sex with alligators. I'm from the Everglades.
Oh, okay.
I'm technically from a place called Davie, which is not too far from Fort Lauderdale.
Okay. I was just wondering because I grew up right there on the coast, but like
Alabama,
Florida.
Oh,
so
different.
The northern part of Florida.
Definitely, it's very different meth.
Yeah,
similar.
That's more bath salts. Yeah,
that PCB speed. I mean, that shit.
That's why I'm here today in such good shape. But yeah, so UF, New York,
and then I moved to LA. And so what happened was I wanted to get out of New York. Sometimes I think it's kind of like how maybe people are in relationships. I don't get into relationships long enough or often enough to have this experience, but I become like overwhelmed and I hate the city I live in. Like I went from like obsessed with New York, like wouldn't want to even like take vacations for longer than a week because I would miss it. Like I couldn't stand like waiting in line at a cash register in another state because they just don't fucking move as fast. Like I could only do New York. For 8 years I loved it, and then one day like a switch flipped and I was like, I'm done. I want to get out. And I went on a trip for 24 hours. One of my best girlfriends had hired a private jet to take us from LA to Vegas.
Wait, what the fuck kind of friends do you have?
See, when I lived in New York, I had really fabulous, famous friends. But so we were spending 24 hours in LA, and then they were flying us all to Vegas for her birthday. The 24 hours I spent in LA, I was like, that's fucking it. I'm moving here. And I didn't know anyone, and I just decided to move to LA, and I lived there for 10 years. And then one day I was like, I can't do this anymore. The traffic got to me, and I was like, I don't want to be here. And so I randomly, on a whim, moved to Denver.
No, so that's not true. It wasn't 10 years and, traffic in L.A. sucked. Something else happened, like going on 2 reality shows.
No.
Made your bones, like, on, like, internet fandom. Like, people know who you are.
I wish.
I mean, like,
no.
Obviously,
in L.A., no one gives a shit.
Well, yeah, that's possibly true. But, like, you were out there working in that kind, was it the industry, the same industry? Were you trying to be stand-up?
No.
Chelsea pre-Chelsea?
No. I gave all that up. So my college years.
What were you doing out there? Just farm sales?
Yeah, I mean, I do a higher level, like, medical sales job. Pharmaceuticals is kind of like an entry level. I don't do pharma anymore. But I kept doing the medical sales stuff.
Okay. I'm glad I got out at the entry level farm sales as well.
Yeah, I mean, it's a good... Thank you.
Oh, look at that.
What is that?
Tots.
Oh. Is that tots with pesto?
The food here is unbelievably fantastic, and I believe these are coming from Bijou's Fresh and Hot and Curry. This guy it's got some fire ingredients from top to bottom, but his tater tot appetizer that you can see on the Instagram when we posted this episode, they're fucking delicious. And they pair very well with the Open Bar's bottle of red wine we're sipping on today.
I do like this wine.
Shout out to our friends at Oh Hey Creative and Broadway Marketplace for hooking up with dankness today. So that is nice,
Well, I thought you might like to know this. This is not relevant to where I live or where I moved, but so I've never made anything in my life. I've never cooked anything. I buy all my hard-boiled eggs pre-made at Costco. And my last apartment has had 2 microwaves because sometimes I like to have 2 things microwaving at the same time.
Wait.
So I would like make a lean cuisine in one microwave and then microwave like extra, like bag of vegetables to add to the lean cuisine to like make it more...
I can't wait to get to the food segment of our episode.
I eat like a stoner, but I'm not.
That's perfectly fine. Guess who eats like a stoner and totally is? Yeah. So I'll talk about best microwavable foods today. In fact, that may be one of our topics.
Oh my God, I got you.
You know who's not in this conversation when we bring this up? Fuckface Chris.
Really?
Yeah,
Why?
I don't do that stuff.
Oh God, do you care about like
he only eats fresh
preservatives?
vegetables and like meats on Fridays.
My biggest nightmare is I'm the first person to live to be 120. Like I want out. As soon as my looks go, I'm good. We're done here.
I have the irony where I look great right now.